Stillness hung in the air of a new beginning, shadowed by the internal weight of age. 15. The number carried a heavy, conflicting echo in Al's mind as April 2018 arrived, bringing with it the entrance ceremony of a correspondence high school and a chest full of nervous static. Even as a high schooler without income, Al could never leave home. Shelter, clothes, daily meals, everything depended entirely on her parents. Yet, a quiet certainty was already anchored deep within her heart. She would become a singer, earn her own money, and stand entirely on her own 2 feet. She viewed her time at the academy as a crucial runway period to break free from the people restricting her and Ado, driving her to run through each day and eventually make a grand jump. Despite that resolve, those inner voices of doubt echoed relentlessly. She recognized those whispers for what they truly were, the vulnerabilities buried deep in her own mind, serving as a defense excuse to protect her heart in case failure ever struck. Leaving those doubts behind, Ao entered the actor school orientation determined to shake off the ghosts of her past truancy and step into a complete rebirth. Opening her heart fully to the new environment, she felt a crisp, refreshing breeze sweep straight through her body. Assigned to the vocal course, she navigated a complex network of specialized groups and strict senior-junior hierarchies. Throughout the building, students greeted one another with a uniform phrase, regardless of whether it was morning, afternoon, or evening. To someone who had only known this world through a television screen, hearing those words echo through the halls felt like standing right at the gates of the entertainment industry. Yet, that initial high met an abrupt wall when she sought out Miyamoto-sensei, the instructor who had listened to her soul during the entrance audition, only to find out the teacher had resigned due to poor health. The reassurance that a mentor who truly understood her voice was waiting her vanished in an instant with a threat of summoning back the helpless fragility of her truancy days. But refusing to let fear take root, Ao lifted her chin, determined to press forward down the long, distant road ahead of her own terms. The curriculum moved at a relentless double-paced rhythm. Mondays were for dance, Tuesdays for vocals, Wednesdays for rhythm training, Thursdays for live performance, and Fridays for instruments. That desire to play the guitar wasn't something that started just this moment. It was rooted in the instrumental try-playing culture of Nico Nico Douga, where band sounds driven by guitar and drums, the world of Dekonina, Owaka, Neru, and Tsumiki deeply fascinated her. Yet that aspiration carried a heavy, painful weight. When she had asked for an electric guitar for her 13th birthday, she fully expected her mother to refuse, knowing how constantly her family struggled with money and how often she heard the refrain that they had known. Instead, her mother immediately nodded and bought it. Though she didn't realize at that time, she later looked back and understood a heartbreaking truth. Her mother had sold her treasured Van Cleef ring to pay for that guitar. When she tried to play, her small fingers couldn't reach the frets, and she couldn't make it sound right. She gave up, shoved the instrument away out of sight, crushed by a deep-seated guilt toward her mother. Unfazed, she tried again the following year on her 14th birthday, asking for electronic keyboard instead. Once again, her hands were too small to span an octave, and she abandoned that instrument too. Every time she failed to give up on an instrument bought for her, a profound sense of helplessness and remorse washed over her, and she would squeeze her eyes shut to block out her own inadequacy. Now the Academy's assignments forced her to pick up the guitar once more. With hands slightly larger and a newfound endurance, she began crafting original melodies, muttering self-deprecating doubts about her own musical talent all the while, unable to ever directly apologize to her mother for the ring. Meanwhile, the vocal lessons were handled with a fierce, absolute intensity, from vocalization exercises to assigned songs. Right before those came rhythm training, where the instructors broke down the fundamentals of timing and groove. Grasping how to catch the offbeat and hide the rhythm opened her eyes to a whole new dimension of musicality, causing her vocal style to shift and evolve step by step. Live performance classes placed her on a makeshift stage built right inside the studio room, where she had to stand up and sing solo in front of all her vocal course classmates. The instructors offered her continuous guidance. Say things like, "Move a bit more like this here. If your movement stops going forward and back, why not try moving left and right?" For someone who had spent her life crouching cross-legged in front of a microphone inside a quiet closet, singing while moving her body was an entirely alien world. Yet, even before making her official debut, those classes gave her the thrill of feeling like a genuine rookie artist. The Academy also featured DTM, a desktop music classes focused on computer-based music production, which completely captivated her. Realizing this was a glimpse into how the vocaloid producers she admired crafted their songs, left her thrilled with excitement. Learning the step-by-step process of computer composition sparked an intense desire to own a personal computer of her own. She had already told her mother months in advance that she wanted a PC for her 16th birthday present, but knowing the financial strain at home made asking for expensive gear painful. Still, with professional debut as an Utaite firmly locked in her absolute goal, a computer was an indispensable tool. For someone who couldn't properly play the guitar or piano, DTM was the ultimate light of hope. With just a computer, you could create songs without needing to play instruments or read traditional sheet music. Furthermore, having the Apple Music production software, Logic Pro, meant she could handle every single stage of production, from composing to recording, editing, and mixing, all in one place. "This will be the last time I ask my parents for a gift," she thought. "This time, I'm using it to actually make my dream come true." Gathering her courage ahead of her birthday, Ao finally spoke up. After a brief moment of thought, her mother gave her conditional approval. With that, her mother bought her the expensive setup. From then on, Ado immersed herself in music even more deeply than before, spending nearly all her time at home wearing headphones and surrounding herself purely with the sounds living inside the computer. By April 2019, as her correspondence high school program marked the start of her second year, a new hurdle entered her world: music theory classes. The instructor stood at the whiteboard, explaining the mechanics of scales. As the lecture pressed on through whole steps and half steps, C major and A minor, and the distinctions between natural, melodic, and harmonic minor scales, it all sounded like foreign spells to someone who had never properly studied music theory. Eager to understand, she pulled out the electronic keyboard she had rarely been able to play and tested the note herself. She loved music so deeply, yet she had never known these foundational laws existed. She couldn't help but feel she would never catch up to classmates who effortlessly played piano or violin and composed their own music. Maybe. Yet, the academy also brought genuine warmth. Close friendship blossomed, filling her days with a lightness that made her want to skip down the halls. For the first time, she built relationships where she could talk freely, almost forgetting the shadows of her truancy. Her vocal chorus friends frequently watched her online uploads, offering genuine praise. Hearing her singing praised like that made her heart swell with a fierce desire to work even harder. Surrounded by peers with straight, sparkling gazes who chased the dream of the expressionist world, peers who never mocked each other's passions or the vulnerable thoughts behind them, she felt a profound sense of camaraderie, respect, and deep admiration that completely eclipsed any petty competition. That century of hope, however, was soon overcast by an unexpected shadow. Ahead of summer session, the administration announced a jarring shift for the school annual presentation. Instead of individual vocal showcases, the entire acting and vocal course would collaborate on a joint theatrical play. Protests from the students erupted instantly. When the vocal students demanded to know why their singing showcase had been stripped away, the administration casually assured them that they had nothing to worry about, because scenes would be created within the play specifically for them to sing. That solution offered zero comfort. Trusting scripts into the hands of vocal students who had no training in acting made no sense. When collective protests and tears from classmates demanding a proper stage fell on deaf ears, the realization struck hard. The administration had zero intention of listening. Worse still, out of 50 students, only 4 solo vocal slots were allotted, decided entirely by a rigid audition process. When Ado secured one of those spots alongside top performers, an uncomfortable rift formed within the class, dividing those chosen from those left behind and stirring heavy resentment. Discontent ripped through the hallways as students questioned the rigid rules, including strict prohibitions against independent auditions and the heavy-handed oversight of the school. Whispers of frustration grew louder among the students. As murmurs of quitting echoed through the halls, Ado found herself caught in the middle. Knowing how hard her mother worked to pay the tuition made walking away impossible, but the cracks in her trust towards the academy were deepening by the day. The tension peaked on the eve of the summer vacation, just as the second year's suffocating atmosphere at the academy had begun to close in. Following the school's strict rule of delivering departures, Ao and 2 close friends stopped by the administrative office to offer the mandatory greeting. Inside, they found another classmate strumming a guitar and receiving warm praise from an instructor for a YouTube cover. Because students were required to register their active online accounts with the school, Ao knew the staff were aware of her own channel. After finishing their formal bow and explanation that they were leaving for the break, The instructor, who had just been praising the guitar player, suddenly turned his gaze to her. The words struck with the force of a physical blow. The instructor in charge of the build support had dismissed Ado's voice directly to her face as loud, annoying, and commercially unviable. A heavy wave of alienation washed over her. Stepping out of the building into the twilight air, her mind flashed back to the junior high and the gym teacher who had once rejected her voice. The mocking tone blended with the instructor's voice, driving the old pain deep into her chest. Yet, what terrified her more than the insult itself was the fleeting, insidious fear that she was about to brand herself with the crushing realization that she wasn't wanted here either. Walking briskly towards the station, she wiped her tears away. Their inner voice refusing to yell, "Nigenai, nigetakunai." Arriving home, she retreated straight to her closet, booting up her computer to look at her Nico Nico Douga account. The dark memories of truancy brushed against her mind, but she locked them away for good. Utaite was her pride. She loved vocaloid culture. As long as she had her own voice and people who cherished Ado, she had nothing to fear. Remembering the 14-year-old winter night outside Zap Diversity when she first saw Mafumafu perform under the glittering lights, her ambition crystallized into an unshakable resolve. With her Nico Nico Douga views climbing past 100,000, supportive fan comments multiplying, and occasional inquiries from industry scouts trickling in, the quiet foundation of her future was finally beginning to shift. Then, a few days later, on 21st of August 2019, a single directly message landed on her tweet account from an unfamiliar name. It was a message that would change everything. The chapter 6 of VIVARIUM Adoto Watashi is called Setbacks and Ambition. Up until now, it was probably the shortest chapter of the book, and this actually closed the gap that was missing from the first chapter. In the first chapter, Ado starts the book by saying how she didn't trust adults. She didn't have anyone to trust. She was in anger with the middle school teacher and with the instructor from the actor school. She was upset, obviously. She was sad, but she didn't want to give up. I think this made her even more stubborn to keep going forward and to keep building her castle, right? Brick by brick, step by step. And she knew that her efforts were being paid off because her views on Nico Nico Douga was getting up. They were climbing. Comments multiplying by day. And she was getting messages from scouts. But she had mentioned a few times how the school actors had a rule about how she couldn't do, the students couldn't do individual auditions and they couldn't sign with an agent. So when she decided that she would finally be part of Cloud9, She chose to leave actor school, even though she felt bad to her mother who was paying for the tuition. She thought that was her opportunity, because until that point, she had been getting a lot of support from Chigira. Because from the first time Chigira appeared in her life, he had never once asked her to sign with him. Even though he was a one-man agent, he had never once asked her to sign with him. But he was all the time giving him support, worried about her, because he had offered his help for her to make her debut in JapaGirl, but then came COVID and all of their plans went away. So she had that period of the COVID and the lockdown at home, depressed, lost. She didn't know how the future will be, but he was there all the time calling her, only to ask how was her day. So I understand why she felt that was her opportunity to leave the actor school, because they disappointed her. They failed with her and other students. How is that even possible? An instructor who should instruct you, support you, tell that to her face. He failed as a teacher, as an instructor. And she proved him wrong, because look at how much success she has built, how popular she is worldwide. At the age of only 24, she has had 2 world tours. World tours. It's not only in Asia. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she will have many others world tours from now on, and she's only 24. It was a really short chapter, but she made me feel upset and in anger with that instructor. But what I loved the most in this chapter is, first, her fascination with the school when she first entered. All of the words that she never knew before. Even though she chose to leave the actor school later, I think that was a great experience she had, because it was there that she had the courage to pick up instruments again, that she learned music theory, that she learned how to use the software to make music, like how to perform live on stage, to dance, and others. So it was really pleasant and enjoyable reading her saying how it was all interesting and how she was going even deeper in that rabbit hole of the music world. So despite that particular part of having all of those doubts and words being thrown at her face once again, I loved how she just went back home, wiped her tears, and went back to the music, to the computer, to Nico Nico Douga, with a really more profound resolve. And I just love how the chapter finishes with the message of Chigira, so that we can go back to the beginning, right? Back to back. This is what I love the most in this chapter. Now I am even more excited and looking forward to read the next chapter. Like what she will tell us in that chapter. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you are as well. Thank you everyone who joined me today in this episode of the series, the chapter 6. And I'm really getting sad just to think that this series is coming to an end. The book has 8 chapters, I think, if I'm not wrong. But let's think of this later. Let's just focus and look forward to the next chapter, the chapter 7. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time on my video of the Miniature Garden, Ado's Autobiography Series. またね